Hey everybody. I know I'm a little late to the party, but it's fine. I'm going to review the critically acclaimed horror film Sinners, starring Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld, directed and written by Ryan Coogler. Now, I could have seen this in the theaters, but I'm not a horror guy. I don't like watching horror in the theaters personally. Call me a chicken if you want to, but if I want to watch a horror film, I'd rather watch it at home because I can fast forward through the scary bits. I'm not a horror person, okay? But I still wanted to see this film. So as soon as it became available to stream on Max, I watched it as soon as possible. So yeah, I want to go through my quick thoughts. I know people all said their piece about this film. I just want to give my quick take on it. And honestly, we've been, no pun intended, but eating when it comes to these vampire films. Because just last year, Nosferatu became like a big hit. The remake became a huge hit. So now we got Sinners. So it's just like and this is what I appreciate about it. This is like true vampire film. Now that because Twilight really screwed up the mindset of what vampires are for such a long time, and now it to this day, it's still one of those running jokes like a sparkly vampire, but all because of that stupid writer of that of those Twilight book sagas kind of warp people's perception of vampires. And this kind of movies like this really bring it all back to what we love about vampires, because they're monsters. There are certain rules about them that that's like permeating the pop culture, that you can't invite them in. They die at sunlight, stake through the heart, garlic, that kind of silver, that kind of thing. Well, I think that's mostly Blade with the whole silver thing, but whatever. Holy water, crucifixes, uh, things of that nature. I think those are just like the primary steadfast rules that encompass multiple of vampire like genres. And I also want to point out, because I cannot stand that freaking TV show. It really got on my freaking skin how bad it was. Acolyte, that actress needed to learn some freaking lessons from Michael B. Jordan on how to play a freaking twin and make them both not only charming but distinct, so we can easily tell them apart despite their similar appearance. And kudos to Ryan Coogler, who and the cinematographers all making coming together to make sure like they film this in a way to make there's no CGI in it. This is like they just shot it in a way to give the look of Michael B. Jordan talking to himself. It is an amazing shot. I cannot recall a film or a TV show that managed to pull off what they did without the use of CGI or crazy editing. Probably have to look it up or something, but it's an amazingly shot film and excellent writing, and the acting is just a stellar performance. And I guarantee you, this time by this Halloween, there's gonna be a bunch of people dressing like Remick the villain and Stack and Smoke. God, it's gonna be a lot of them, especially if you're dealing with somebody's, well, they don't have to be legit brothers, but just best friends, like dressing as Smoke and Stack, and one of them having like a girl, like a girl among them to be like Mary, so they got like a triple or a quadruple if you want somebody dressed as Remick, had quadruple like costume uh, uh, together. But I also bet you there's gonna be at some point, because the film got so popular, it was like a TikTok video, I'm pretty sure, where a bunch of people got, well, not a bunch of them, but there's a few people who got dressed up, but one in particular dressed as Remick, and he did this whole Irish jig like in the movie. It's like, got a bunch of views. You can look it up, but yeah, this movie like broke a lot of the internet for a good chunk of the time it was running in the theaters. So yeah, and like the main villain is compelling. Now this is how you make a freaking villain. Is Laris's character, but here's the thing. What's getting on my nerves when certain villains in film in recent years said there's gotta be some kind of like, you gotta feel bad, or woe is me. There's traumatic past growing up and blah blah blah. Like, no, yeah, you can have a layered villain, but you don't need to have some. I don't want to sympathize with my villain or understand their plight or whatever. Sometimes villains can just be assholes. And Remick, sure, you get a little taste here and there about his past, but it's just enough so you can get understanding his purview. But he's still, all in all, a villain. A compelling villain, a charming one, and charismatic. That's the whole point of a villain. Has to be on some level a charismatic one. It's kind of that draws you in, and you want to see him or her just move. It's similar how like classic Disney villains used to be. Like Cruella was such a just inviting type of villain. The same thing was like, Mufasa, Ursula, just like a Jafar, just for a few examples. But anyway, like I said, this is directed by Ryan Coogler. Michael B. Jordan plays Smoke and Stack. Haley Steinfeld plays Mary, Stack's ex-girlfriend. Miles Canton plays Sammy Moore, their cousin, Smoke and Stack's cousin. Jack O'Connell plays Remick, an Irish vampire. Wumi Masako as Annie, and I'm pretty sure she acted on a lot of stuff, probably plays and whatnot. She seemed like a theater, type of person. But I think the first time I even saw her was crap. I'm pretty sure it was the Loki show. Yeah. Yeah, she was like the first time I was, introduced to her was in the TVA. You got Jamie Lawson as Perline, Omar Miller as Cornbread, Delroy Lindo as Delta Slim, Peter Germanius as Bert, Lola Kirk as Joan, Lee John Lee as Grace Chow, Bo's wife, Saul Williams as Jedediah Moore, Sammy's father, Yao as Bo Chow, Grace's husband. So it's 1932, and Smoke and Stack actually are WWE 1 vets. It's amazing they managed to get through the Great War, but they also became part of the Chicago mafia back in the 1910s, known as the Chicago Outfit, one of the most infamous Italian mobs of the time. But they managed to rob both the Irish and the Italian mob at the time, get enough money so they get out of Chicago and head back to Mississippi, where they meet up with their cousin Sammy, who is an excellent guitarist and wants to play the blues against his father's wishes, who sees the blues as like the devil's music. And I think it's kind of like a play on that old that legend where a blues musician selling his soul to the devil to become like a famous blues musician, like a crossroads kind of thing. It was a whole thing in the Supernatural TV show. There was like a episode or two dedicated to that. Anyway, so Smoking Stack buys up this old sawmill so they can turn it into a juke joint. And so they start gathering some people, Delta Slim, who can play the harmonica and the piano, so he can play along with Sammy to get this Asian couple who run this shopkeep to fix up some banners and get a couple of items to make the place look nice. They get Annie Smoke's ex-wife to do all the cooking. So, and this movie gets very horny here and there. I'm not sure if this is Ryan Coogler's little thing, because you know how like Quentin Tarantino is, with his old foot thing. So it's like, I don't know, every once in a while you get like a certain director that kind of, I'm not saying this is maybe Ryan Coogler, might just be a writing choice, but it's just, I don't know, sometimes you get certain directors putting in their little fetishes here and there into their work. But as people start showing up, places like really bumping, but as the sun going down, we see Remick turning a couple who happen to be Klansmen into vampires, because he wants to start building his own coven. And as Sammy starts doing it, singing, of course they, Mary meets up with them, and like, her mother died, and she's upset that Stack kind of left her, and she's a quarter black, so she's white passing, so she's able to come and go in certain areas where people won't know her blood lineage. But they, as things are really kicking off, Remick and his two vampire thralls wants to be invited in so he can play play along with the music with everybody, because he hears the calling of Sammy's music, which, by the way, is the music in this film is very revered, mostly because Ryan Coogler, because his love of blues music and like all kinds of music. But I saw him on interviews talking about how like he has like a like a familial connection when it comes to music because of a relative of his. But for me personally, because I know I'm not saying like none of the music is terrible, but the only music that like I was really digging was the one where Sammy was singing his heart out, and you see like music, black music of the past and going into the future, and come mix in with the present day in this kind of synergy and just passion, and it's almost like magic. It's like, or just time hopping in a way without people really kind of noticing. And that swirl of just magic in a way brings in invites Remick to this area. So of course Smoke and Stack don't invite them in because they just suspicious of white people in general, and they just trying to keep it like just like a black establishment for the most part. So they decide, okay, we'll walk away, and in case you change your mind. But Mary decides she will check them out because in case they're really up to something, they'll probably be, because they expect them being racist or something like that. So they think like, oh, Mary thinks she can like talk to him because they'll let that guard down more easily with her than they would with any of them. But as a result, she ends up getting turned and let back in. Also, the bouncer Cornbread gets turned when he goes out to take a leak. As Mary and Stack is getting their freak on in a different room, Sammy and Smoke sees that she bit his neck. He's bleeding all over the floor. Smoke shoots her, but she gets up and runs out. And I don't know. Haley Steinfeld's still freaking hot despite all that, but that's neither here nor there. But here's my thing, and I get the point, how it plays out, but I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're a vampire. None of them are, except for Annie, in a few minutes, but nobody knows what they're dealing with yet. And you're already inside before you run out, because at that point you won't be invited back in, which that's another thing. If a vampire is, and it gets a little complicated. Okay, first and foremost, you're a vampire. You're stronger than a lot of them. You can easily at least take out 2 people on your way out or something. I guess she didn't want to get shot. She's already kind of bleeding. But kind of still didn't make any sense. You would think she'd at least knock some people to the side as she's trying to make her escape. Secondly, because Stack eventually turns too, and he gets chased off after Annie dumps some garlic pickled jar with juices flowing and everything like that, dumps it on his face. He's running off outside, and I'm thinking like, okay, if you're already inside and you run out, do you really need another invitation to get back in? Because I'm thinking to myself, okay, either that cancels out the rule for at least these 2, because they was already in. If they were turned outside, then yeah, they couldn't be invited back in, as we've seen with Cornbread, who a lot of people thought was part of the funniest scene out of the entire film. And it's kind of funny because the fact that this dude is kind of really landing on thick, where it's like, oh, hunky dory, fake, not happiness, but that in that realm of thing, like, oh, that nice, fake nice. Yeah, he's fake nicing it up, and it's like you're trying mighty hard to get an invitation where you was moving in and out this entire night, and you didn't ask for no invitation before. Like, what is up? And then yeah, clearly he was turned, and it's like the whole entire thing was pretty funny. But going back, because they weren't like Cornbread, who had to step up to take a leak. Then he got turned by Remick. But Mary and Stack was already inside. So even though they went out, why would they still need another invitation to get back inside? And, well, I'm about to say, and they could have, if they was already inside, they could be the one, they could easily invite the others in. But I guess it's all about the ownership of the place. But since Stack was part owner along with Smoke, you can say like, oh, he can invite him in if Mary can't. But no, because I'm thinking to myself, because maybe it requires living residents or living owners of the establishment or household to make it legit. But like I said, I'm overcomplicating it. I'm just thinking in the moment. But anyway, of course, Bo and other people who was, just leaving the establishment eventually gets turned. It's like a bunch of people, and excuse me, because of Remick being like the head vampire, he's very connected with all the vampire thralls. So much so that he can since he turned Bo, he can speak Mandarin fluently to his wife, who's inside, saying, like he knows exactly where she likes to be licked, and the fact that, we will go after your daughter, and with that threat seems kind of hollow to me, because exactly, because I can't remember, because I'm pretty sure, despite the vehicles, they're pretty far from the town, from where, because the place is not necessarily remote, but still decently far enough away, and they're losing nightlight or nighttime, because eventually, because they're waiting for the sun to come up, so that way they can easily, book it, because the vampires can't really make a move under daylight. So if the threat was legit, they have to wait until the following night in order to get to said town in order to make up that threat, which, like I said, it's kind of hollow, because once daylight hits up, those people can head out, go and warn the town, and get the daughter and get the heck out before the next night. That's my line of thinking. But then Remick also informs that the clan couple he turned, the person that Smoke and Stack bought off the sawmill for, is the head clansman, who plans, because he ended up telling his son, who's the guy in the couple that he turned earlier, mentions that he was planning on getting his boys to come in the following morning to essentially lynch all of the black people inside the establishment. So Remick says, like, you become a vampire, you're free. We'll become our own family. It's all about, love and everything. It's like, we're truly free, and we'll be a true community, and we'll be immortal. All that stuff. Really, doing like a huge sales pitch. and they plan on, like, attacking those Klansmen when they arrive. And the fact that that sawmill used to be a place where they torture and kill a lot of black people. Because early on, Smoke and Stack noticed, kind of like dried up blood or something like that, which is a sawmill. They thought it was for like a slaughterhouse or something like that. But we know better now. But Smoke and the others won't invite them in. They prepare to possibly fight their way out coming dawn. So they make themselves some with the stakes, and of course Smoke wears this kind of like hoodoo paraphernalia that Annie provided for him. But because the wife, Grace, who, by the way, Grace and Bo, despite being, Asian and can speak fluent Mandarin, they got that really, the actress and actor really did a great job with laying on that southern drawl accent. Because it's kind of took me back a bit. It's like, okay, it's like an Asian person speaking in like a southern drawl. Kind of, your brain has to rewire itself to make that make sense, because it's kind of like watching a black person speak in thick Irish accent. It's kind of like your brain, has to, take a moment to let that those two neurons connect to make it make sense in your mind. But Grace becoming so distraught and not wanting her, because she lost her husband, and she wants to do something about it. It kind of reminds me of like Star-Lord after they got Thanos locked in under mind control from Mantis, and he just hit his face with his blaster and kind of ruined the plan. Grace essentially did sort of the same thing, where she gets so upset and the stress of possibly losing her daughter to these monsters, she ends up inviting these guys in, which you would think, since he's not the owner, Smoke technically would be the only one that should have the power to give them the invite, but it's irrelevant. So they come, barging in. They manage to kill some, but Annie gets bitten, and Smoke has to keep his promise and hit a stake through her heart, which upsets Mary. She goes, running away. Slim gets killed. Remy turns the girl Sammy was infatuated with. So, and Smoke and Stack end up fighting. Now Sammy is fighting himself off from Remick, but he hits him over the side of the head with his guitar, which has like a silver kind of plate embedded inside. So he hits him beside the head with this thing. Stack. Smoke managed to impale Remick with a wood stake. As the sun rises, all the vampires, go inflamed, and Smoke sends Sammy away uh, while he waits with his, weapons, which he's a WWE vet. Of course, he has weapons. And as soon as those, Klansmen show back up, he's, waiting in the bushes, and it's very like he's like, shows the tactical training he has. He, takes out a lot of those guys, and even comes up with the whole Tommy gun. It's fun to see a Tommy gun because it's a very classic weapon, which technically was meant for a soldier, but it wasn't like I don't think it was efficient, because it's kind of like a spray and pray type of gun. It's meant for it's like, just for lack of a better word, it wasn't efficient for like true because I imagine it was used a little bit during times of war back then, but it became more popularized in urban areas for gangsters and mafia. So he takes out a lot of those Klan guys. He gets wounded in the gut, and as he's dying, he sees visions of his Annie and their baby that didn't make the childbirth. And before he dies, he ends up killing that head Klan guy. Fast forward 60 years later, and elderly Sammy's playing the blues in the early 1990s, and as he's the bar is pretty much closed, and Sammy's giving himself a drink as an ageless Stack and Mary, who survived, comes in and says they still love the way he plays, and Stack smells that he's gonna be dying soon, and he says look, Smoke made me promise that if he lets me go, that I promise to leave you in peace. I could turn you so that way you can always you can live on. But of course he denies. They give each other a hug goodbye, and he plays for them because it's probably the last time they'll hear Sammy's music, at least live. And he tells the Mary and Stack that despite the trauma of that horrific experience, before all that was the best night he ever had. And Stack says it was for him too, because not only is the last time he saw the son, but it was the last time he had, he had time with his brother. And that was Sinners. Like I said, really good movie. Now, I was intending to wait until October, but I might as well just get it out the way. Talk about it now. And just like with the Harry Potter films that I reviewed a while ago, I'm just going to just throw it in the list so that way it can be among the compilation. So, happy Halloween if you're watching this on Halloween. Or at least on the month of October. So, yeah. Not my critiques of this film is very nitpicky, because mostly because I know the classic horror kind of monsters, so I have a I'm very critical when it comes to that stuff because I'm a purist, and I really love the way Ryan Coogler perfectly or at least nearly perfectly represents vampires as a classic horror monster. So I even like the way he did up the fangs. It wasn't, overly cartoony, and it wasn't like those goofy mouth, like Nosferatu. I do not like the Nosferatu fangs, and I don't want those overly done cartoonish way of fangs, like it's some kind of like it's a shark or something. This and Blade and the Underworld. Those movies are like a good happy medium of what I like to see from like vampire fangs. At least one of those three. But anyway, yeah, like I said, it is only minor nitpicks. But how would you rank this in terms of your favorite vampire film? Because despite my enjoyment, I don't rank this that high. It's very mid-level in terms of my favorite vampire films, at least above average. But I still think like the first two Blade films, the Vampire in Brooklyn. No, I think Vampire Brooklyn is probably a step below Sinners, but the first two Underworld series, there's ranked very high in terms of my favorite vampire film. But Dracula Dead and Loving It, that is an average vampire film. I like Dracula Untold. That ranks very high in terms of my favorite vampire film. But what are your favorite vampire films? You can leave a comment below, and leave a like and share this with your friends. Like I said, I know everybody's already make their statement about Sinners, but now I can give my critique. But in any case, I will see you guys in a little bit. I got one more film that I want to review that I just recently saw, so stay tuned for that. In any case, take care, have a pleasant afternoon. Peace.